All right, as we inch closer to Selection Sunday, much of the discussion and narrative around the country is going to be about the teams who are on the bubble. But for the purposes of this exercise, Jeff Borzello and myself are going to talk about pretenders versus contenders for the national championship this year. Jeff, we'll start with an easy one, the Duke Blue Devils. I think we're both in agreement here. They are a contender.
Yeah, that was a softball. I think they're in that same conversation with Michigan and Arizona, two teams that we don't really need to discuss for this. I think they're all in that top tier of Final Four contenders, title contenders, and I think that those three have maybe separated themselves as a three title favorites heading into the final week.
What's ironic is last year, too, Jeff, we were talking about it, they're probably a better team. I don't think there was going to be much pushback from that. This year, though, it seems in some ways they play better as a team together. Cam Boozer does a great job of sharing the basketball. In addition to everything he does in the scoring side of things, they have one of the most underrated front courts in the country, as you talked about, too, as evidenced by the win over Michigan. So no doubt Duke, a contender this year. Let's go over to the Uconn Huskies, fresh off of that demolition of St. John's at the XL Center on Wednesday night. Contender as well for Uconn, do you agree?
Yeah, I think that, you could have probably questioned their title credentials before the St. John's game. They had the home loss to Creighton. They didn't look great in that loss at St. John's. I think they answered any question that you could have had about the Huskies in that win over St. John's. That starting five, when they're hitting shots, when they're running the floor, when they're active defensively like they were against St. John's, they're maybe one or two better teams than UConn. I think that if we said that Duke, Michigan, Arizona is the top tier, I think UConn is probably right there.
Dan Hurley said in his post-game press conference there after the win against St. John's, this UConn team will go as far as Terrace Reed takes us. And Terrace Reed did a whole lot of stuff in that game that had never been done before in a UConn Huskies uniform. And Dan Hurley even said all of this is repeatable. Like nothing was incredibly special that he did. You think about the back-to-back national championship teams that UConn had. It was Adama Sanogo and it was Donovan Clingan, right? And then it was Donovan Clingan and Samson Johnson. The two big men have always played a huge pivotal part in them going the distance and winning 6 straight. It needs to be Eric Ryba this year, and it needs to be Terrace Reed as those two focal guys in the front court for the UConn Huskies. Let's switch it up here. Maybe a bit of a tougher one, maybe controversial. The Kansas Jayhawks, a team who the Huskies beat earlier in the season, by the way, but it was without Darren Peterson on the floor. And that's been the biggest point of contention for a lot of people having this conversation. Kansas contender or pretender in your estimation?
For me, they're a pretender. And a lot of it does have to do with just the status, the questions about Darren Peterson. On paper, Kansas will be better with Darren Peterson.
Yeah.
In reality, some of their best performances, some of their best wins have come without him. And, it's going to take some time. Once he starts playing 30, 35 minutes a game, they could start, maybe figuring out how to play with each other for long stretches. Bill Self has talked about it a couple of times. And until we see that, Melvin Council's great when Peterson's not on the floor. Badunga's been great no matter what. Trey White's been great when Peterson's not on the floor. Can all these guys play together and play well at the same time? We just have not seen that yet consistently.
And it's great to have a guy like Darren Peterson go out and get you 20 points in the first half, but I think they would probably rather have him in the second half when it's closing time and it's winning time. So that's going to be the biggest question for me, for Kansas, is Darren Peterson not only playing in the first half, is he playing in the second half when his team needs him the most and when they need him down the stretch in winning time? Sticking in the Big 12, BYU, contender or pretender?
I think they're a pretender. Especially without Richie Saunders, I don't know if they had. When they had that big three of DeBonsa, Saunders, and Rob Wright, they had as good of a trio as anybody in the country. Without Saunders, I just don't see it. DeBonsa can carry them to a second weekend. I don't think he can carry them to a Final Four.
Kebakeda's really solid down low for this team, big physical presence, but I agree with you. Richie Saunders was more than just a great shooter for this team. He was the heart and soul of BYU in a lot of ways for a team that had transfers coming in. And Rob Wright, obviously, with DeBonsa coming in as a herald of freshman, Richie Saunders was that glue that was such a huge part of this team. He will miss the rest of the season with that ACL injury. I am going pretender for BYU. A ton of questions on the defensive side, too, like you said, Jeff, for BYU. Let's go to the home team for today. College Game Day was in town there at the O-Dome, the Florida Gators.
They are now. I think over the last month, they've been playing as well as anybody in the country. I think they have a legitimate shot to go back-to-back. Their defense is great. Their shooting's improved. Their depth's improved. And that front, the front court is just dominant. Outside of Michigan, I'm not sure there's a front court that can match them in terms of physicality and size. I do want to ask you about the other team in tonight's matchup, Arkansas. I think they're kind of a sneaky contender because I think Darius Acuff, is maybe the player in the country that can carry his team and put his team on his shoulders for a Final Four run.
You think about some of the great runs that we've seen in the history of March Madness, right? Whether it be like a 2011 Kemba in Uconn going through that run. There sometimes are just these players that transcend the sport and almost rise above the competition to take that next step come March. And Darius Acuff Jr. is one of those players. Trevor Brazile has been great. Billy Richmond has started to really round into form too for this team that made a run last year. Let's not forget that some of these players are back and they remember losing their final game of the season last year. So I think this team is certainly built to make a final, I'm going to say Final Four run. Like they could be one of those contenders if they can get enough on the defensive side, make some shots. And let's not forget, Coach Cal has been there and done that before. So that always is a big help. So we got Arkansas. Let's go to Illinois. This is another interesting one. I think we may disagree.
After the loss to Michigan on Friday night, I'm not sold on their defense. They've now lost 4 out of 6, and they have not shown an ability to defend against high-quality opponents consistently. I just don't know if they can do it for 6 straight games. Offensively, they're incredible. Most efficient offense in the country. Most efficient offense in years, really. Yeah. I just don't know if they can guard really good teams for 6 straight games. So I am out on them after Friday night's loss.
I'm with you on the defensive side, and there has been some lapses over the last couple of weeks here. This team is constructed to play some pretty brand of basketball, right? And that doesn't always translate when it comes to March Madness, where you're going to have to bang bodies down low. And it also does seem like some teams have figured out the Keaton Wagler effect here. Like Michigan was putting Yaxel Lendenborg on him. When you have 6'9" guarding you, that's tough to score on or at least shoot over. But they're starting to get a little bit healthy, and I think that's going to take a little bit of time. Boswell was banged up. Stojakovic, you see there taking that shot. He missed some time as well. I would like to see this team head into the Big Ten tournament and play like we saw them play, at least at the start of the year when they ripped off that huge long winning streak. I think they're a contender. I need to see how they play as a full group again once fully healthy. So that's Illinois. Keep it in the Big Ten. Preseason #1 team has lost 4 games at home inside one of the toughest places to play in all of college basketball in Mackey Arena. Purdue, contender or pretender?
I'm going with pretender. They've lost their 4 toughest games essentially at home, which is a place that they don't normally lose. I mean, Braden Smith is still an elite point guard, and Trey Kaufman-Renn, his numbers are down a little bit. Fletcher Lawyer, in losses, his numbers have been really poor. And they've been really good away from home, and so there is some hope that in the NCAA tournament when games are not played at Mackey for whatever reason, they're going to turn it around. But I'm just not sold on them. I do want to switch it to the Big 12. There's 2 more teams that could go either way. Houston, Iowa State. I lean contender for Houston. I just think that defense could turn around at some point. They have the elite guards, and then Iowa State to me is as complete as anybody in the country. I think they're squarely a contender, and Houston again, I lean contender for them.
I'll take the Iowa State side of it. I think they are a contender because Iowa State and TJ Otzelberger had something that is incredibly rare coming into this season, and that was returning experience, right? With Jefferson, with Taman Lipsey, with Milan Momcilovic, all 3 of those guys remember bowing out early in the tournament last year. They are all back, and they're back for a reason. I think Iowa State is a contender, and especially with the way that they play defense too. This team is going to be tough. Speaking of defense, Houston and the Cougars, they remember what happened.
They're borderline. I don't know which way to go for them.
And they also too remember what happened last year, just minutes away from achieving greatness. They're definitely going to be back. Look, there is a lot of contenders out there. There's probably some that we did not have in our list. There are certainly some pretenders out there as well that we didn't have in our list. But for those who are watching on YouTube, please let us know what your thoughts and comments are, and let us know how wrong Jeff and I are as well, because we always love to hear about that.